pool heater. I was sold on home warranty is what they call it.
Yeah. They keep,
The guy comes
I have
in
a
today.
car, I have a car with less than 10,000 miles on it. They keep sending me
Yeah,
forms to fill out to insure my engine.
yeah, yeah. I love it.
Yeah, I got a bridge to sell you if you're gonna do
Huh?
it.
Yeah.
I got a bridge I'll sell you.
Yeah.
You go to arbitration, you don't agree.
I've even always resisted those homeowner kind of things too, because it just, if it breaks, fuck it, I'll buy it again.
Yeah, when I first bought a property down here, I bought a house that I was going to rent out, and I just wanted somebody to call to come fix it, not have to deal with a bunch of different codes. And that has turned out to be really convenient because I've found that it's hard to find somebody to work on certain stuff that knows what they're doing down here.
You live
This
south-
guy came from
you live
Tallahassee.
south-
I live,
South of Richmond.
yeah, I'm on the beach.
There's a guy that I've used over the years, Cook's Custom Appliance Services, like he's down here in Santa Rosa. And he's always done a good job for me, and always either beat the manufacturer, or Sears or wherever I got the thing, always sort of beat them in terms of
Yeah,
repair, replace. I got a dishwasher that had these electronic buttons that you that thing went, you know what I mean? Yeah, and I think I bought that from Kenmore, so I bought it from Sears. And they wanted almost half the price of the dishwasher.
yeah.
So he beat that price. I don't know where he got his parts, but he beat the price and saved me some money.
Oh, he
But
probably won't.
the real thing is, when they call you up, you've had a dishwasher for 2-3 years, and they tell you you're gonna have to pay half the price.
I
wouldn't think.
Buy a dishwasher. That's
Yeah, yeah.
okay.
They usually have somebody like that, a local dude that's got a business, So this past time, it's been somebody, we got 2 sets of minutes to approve.
Yeah, sit down, John.
He's got 2 sets of minutes to approve.
All right, you ready?
How you can get it.
Sure.
He's
Okay.
gonna lead us in.
What?
I'm going to call this meeting of the Code Enforcement Board to order. We'll stand for the pledge to the flag and the invocation. God and country.
I pledge.
All right, we'll start with the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dave?
Bow our heads, please. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this new opportunity to come together to be in service to each other and doing so to you. We pray that you would guide these proceedings, cast your blessings upon us all in this room and upon Walton County as a community and this great state of ours and then, of course, this great nation of ours. We pray, as always, that you would be with those men and women who are in service to us and far away in dangerous places and our first responders here at home. Protect them in the way that they need and keep them in your loving care. And we pray these things in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. I have no announcements. Do we have any announcements from the field there? Anything we need to know? All right. If not, the minutes. We have 2 sets of minutes. We didn't have enough people to vote to approve the May 18th minutes at the last meeting, so at this time, somebody could move to approve those minutes, having read them.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
And a second. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay, the minutes are approved for May the 18th, 2017. And then the minutes for the minutes for the last meeting, the June 15th meeting, we need to approve these as well.
Only one problem on here is.
Yeah, I was gonna, wait, John. I was gonna say, John Roberts is neither here nor there.
I was excused from the last meeting.
Okay. Other than that, anybody have any corrections or, okay, a motion to approve?
Motion approved.
Okay, second?
Well,
Wait.
technically,
Oh, you weren't here, you
you
can't
weren't
do
here,
it.
so
Oh, well,
you-
then, there we go.
Yeah.
it'd be someone else.
Robert, you want, yeah,
Neither was
I
I.
was here.
okay.
So we're going
Oh, we don't have it again?
We don't have a quorum for voting purposes for that, so we may have to stay those minutes.
Wait a minute.
Yeah. Okay. It's
We
always-
won't go to jail?
No,
We can
you're not
still-
going to jail, but somebody may question.
Okay, then, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay. So the minutes are approved then for May 18th and, or May 18th and June 15th. And that means we can proceed. Sydney, do you need to speak to us?
Well, I was gonna speak to you on the very first case, so it's case number 17-3011.
Yes.
We have a notice problem on this case, so we're gonna ask that we continue it to August. And I wanna apologize to the board. This case has been drug out, and I think that was largely my fault. Because whenever we heard it back in May, I suggested we continue it. Now we've kind of gone down this road. But, I assure you that we'll have all the notice issues cured and we can hear it in August. And I wanted to apologize to the board about why it's drug on so long.
And that's then the first four cases?
No, sir, that's just the first case.
That's not the case.
That's against Southern Hybrid Homes LLC.
Yeah, that's the one, right?
He's the new
Yes, sir.
And the note, and it's really not Sydney's or anybody's fault.
He
The
used to be the
the
assistant.
defendant in this case,
Yeah, he's
on
always
June
been that.
30th, changed his agent for service of process with the state of Florida and did not advise anyone here, which it really and truly, it's his fault, but out of an abundance of caution, I agree with Sydney that we continue this. So,
Well, I encourage that we may need a little less caution next time and we'll hear it.
yes, sir.
Okay.
We'll get that squared away so we can hear the case whether he's here or not next month.
Yeah, that'd be great. Okay.
I move we continue case 17-3011.
For the record, I've got to recuse myself on that one, cannot vote.
Yes.
Second emotion.
Okay. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay, so it passes.
Continue.
Yeah, and the case is continued until next time. Am I at the position here now where I can leave and still leave a quorum?
Nope, I got to recuse myself from the next 4 cases.
Oh, okay. Then I'm still on the
Well,
clock here.
And on that note, I just need to disclose that I go back, way back with Mr. Igow through church and, coming, board membership through our church and acquaintanceship just for the past 16, 17 years anyway, so I am okay with hearing this if he's okay with me here.
And I second what Dave says. I've known him for as long as you have, and, you know, I'd like to think that I'm gonna be fair no matter what, but
It's a community board. I mean,
yeah, you're part of
You
the
gotta know
community, we're
somebody.
part of the community.
everybody's gonna know somebody something.
Yeah.
All right,
Unfortunately, I have a business relationship with his wife, and
Okay.
a partnership, which is a direct conflict. of
That
the
is a
rules, and
direct
I must
conflict.
recuse myself, so.
I will send you a conflict.
We won't have-
I've already
You've already done one.
no, we still will.
Did you do one for the,
You mean-
for
Well,
Mr.
you
Okay.
leave.
I'm not leaving. I'll stay. Okay. All right.
Well, we have a quorum, and I would like to put on the record from Mr. Igow that he agrees to the commissioners that have his knowledge to hear this case. You could do,
I'm sorry.
Code board meeting.
could you come,
You can come up here,
forward?
Devin,
Come
sit in
forward.
that table if you want.
Yeah.
She was asking that you acknowledge that it's okay with you that Dave and I are both acquainted.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Just swear in.
Yeah, well, everybody who's going to testify in this matter, and that certainly is you, Devin, and the code officers need to be sworn in.
Did all rise that are gonna, Mr. Igow?
Devin,
Will
you
you
need to
rise,
stand.
Anyone else that's gonna offer testimony in this case? Do you affirm, please say your name, and I affirm or swear that I will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I, Bill Williams, I to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do, or tell the truth, nothing but the truth.
Thank you, thank you,
I, Oscar, I swear to tell the truth, and nothing but the truth.
thank you.
Okay,
Can we do that For anybody here to testify
I was gonna
tonight?
suggest we can do it, for all people who are gonna testify, and what we'll do is next time. But the absolute proper way to do it is for each case, but we can do a mass swearing in. The problem is if somebody comes in late, we have to catch it, that they came in, and if we don't notice, then we have an issue. So kind of doing it for each case avoids that.
Okay. Sir, you may proceed.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Wow, I gotta get better glasses.
All right, good evening, everyone. One note to start with, our access program, when we generated the notice of hearing, he actually received 4 notice of hearings, one for each parcel in question in these cases. One of them generated the date, which obviously is why Mr. Rego is here. The other 3 did not generate the date, only the time. So if it's okay with Mr. Rego, would you like to continue with all the cases, or would you rather hold them out, do one now and next month? or-
Look, I'm not, like I said, I found out otherwise, until the 20th, but yeah, I'm just to resolve, say
Okay.
my statement.
As long as you're okay with it,
We'll do whatever you have.
All right, everyone, these are code enforcement case, it's CV 2015-2905, 2015-2904, 2015-2903, 2015-2902. And for the record, I'm submitting this final report and a hard copy of this slideshow presentation as evidence.
You'll need to state your name for the record.
And my name is Kurt Rose, Walton County Code Enforcement Officer. Code Enforcement Officer. Okay? Following the first slide shows the code cases, their relevant property, just market values based on the property appraiser's website, property owner for all 4 parcels, is Devin Yu, his address is stated. The land use category for this area is neighborhood infill, and this is a violation of the outdoor storage section. Following slide will show the, from the property appraiser's website, the location of the parcels in question. They're obviously highlighted in red, there's 2 of them in this slide. And the other 2 appear in these 2 slides here. All 4 are on the same street, which is called Campbell Street. They're all located in and around the same vicinity, around Mr. Egan's residence at 297 Campbell Street.
Where's, freshman, I know where Campbell, Middle Campbell Street, where is it?
Campbell Street is on, it's right off of 38. You're all familiar with where Butterfly Bike Rental is on 38.
Okay.
That street that goes behind it is Campbell Street. Campbell Street is actually a county maintained road up to a certain point, and then it's no longer paved, becomes a dirt road, which after that becomes, it's not county maintained, it's not a right of way anymore, it becomes an ingress egress point for all the properties north of that. And that brings me to the next slide. When I first met with Mr. Egu, he had mentioned that this was all private property, there was ingress and egress through these properties in order for the property owners behind them to explain where they were. I explained at that time I would go back, do research, through the deeds to make sure that that was the case. on the deeds, I did find where it states in the deeds for everything on what would be the left-hand side of that road shows these properties having an easement for ingress and egress all the way back. That being said, that makes that all private property, and without right of entry, I really don't have any reason to be back there. However, the complainants live north of these subject properties. They granted me right of access, through the right of entry forms onto that easement and their properties to the north of EU, which puts me going past all of these properties.
Go back to the slide of the properties,
Where
where the red squares show which lots, just one of those two. I want to know which end's north. Is the top north?
yeah,
And his house is which one?
these would be located right there where it's highlighted.
Okay.
I don't know if you can see the mouse up there on the screen, but right in there.
Yeah,
And I actually have a simpler version of this farther down the slideshow,
Okay.
so that way you can,
And Mr. Stein, I guess just to clarify, Mr. Igo owns 5 parcels in that area.
Yeah.
He's only cited for 4 of those parcels, not the 5th one. There's no violation on the 5th one.
alright, so to simplify matters, the ones highlighted in pink are the 4 subject parcels. These are the parcels that their violations were cited on. Mr. Eager's residence is located there, right next to it, I wrote it in there. The complainant is located, farther down from that, as you can see. And then the green line is actually the easement, the ingress and egress easement. Campbell Street, which is the dark line that says Campbell Street on it, over time apparently has not actually stayed in the easement, it has meandered off that path, but it has been there longer than I know, so. But at this point, I gained right of access and right of entry from the 2 properties at the end beyond him. So if that helps explain how that all looks and works. Any questions on that? Okay. As you can see on this one, this is the first subject parcel, indicated by the arrow where its location is. For all intents and purposes, it's junk and debris throughout the back of the property. Move down to the next slide. Again, same parcel. Kind of looking over the top of that fence there where I was looking before. That fence is actually on the complainant's property, so these are taken from the complainant's property, looking out. This is the next subject property, designated by the arrow. Same property, just different angles. This is the next subject property. And then this is the final subject property. Alright, so a quick synopsis of everything on here. The initial inspection done on April 14th. Made contact with Mr. Review on April 27th. Where I'm at here. At that time, when I initially, as I said, made contact with him, he stated that there was no violation because it was all private property. He stated there was only ingress and egress for other property owners and that it was private. I explained I would do more research on these easements. and that I did. I moved forward, and on March 23rd, I spoke to the county attorney at the time, Mark Davis, in regards to this case specifically. He suggested I gain right of entry forms to the easement from the properties beyond, which is what we did in this case. On March 30th and April 5th, I received all the right of entry forms required. And then on April 11th, I actually went out and conducted a full inspection of the properties, showed the violations of the Land Development Code 50708 for recovery storage. On April 27th, I made phone contact with Mr. Devin Egu, the property owner, which resulted in Mr. Egu basically telling me just to send it to him in writing.
Just send it to whom?
To send it to Mr. Egu in writing. He didn't want to discuss it over the phone as far as what the violation was. He just said send it to me in writing. On April 28th, I sent a warning letter out via U.S. Postal Service to the property owner of record for Walton County Property Appraiser Database, explaining the violations for the compliance date of June 1st. May 4th, Mr. EU contacted the Code Enforcement Office. He spoke to Code Enforcement Manager Bill Williams. He wanted to leave a case note for the conversation that we had on property, and the ultimate outcome of that was that he agreed with Mr. Williams that he would work on cleaning up the property. Mr. Williams' case note specifically was property owner Devin EU contacted this office at the South Walton Annex Library. EU advised that he wanted to clarify a statement made to CEO Rose. EU advised that the documented statement was made in a joking manner and was not meant in any way to be threatening to CEO Rose. EU advised he is willing to clean the properties in question, and there was discussion on this office providing additional time. A verbal notification was given to Mr. EU for some progress to be made by May 18th of 2017. And a reinspection will take place on that date by CEO Rose and this officer. EU agreed to have progress on the cleanup by that date. On May 18th, a reinspection of the property was done by myself and Officer Manager Bill Williams. It showed no progress. On June 1st, an inspection of the property pursuant to the warning letter initial time frame was conducted, and again showed no progress in the cleanup. On June 5th, a notice of violation was sent certified mail to the property owner of record using the Walton County Property Database. On June 8th, an attorney for Mr. EU contacted Code Enforcement by phone, summarizing a conversation. She stated that the property is not public and cannot be enforced under the Land Development Code. I explained the violations and basically stated that her argument was it was private property. Easements meant nothing, neighbors meant nothing, that's private property. I made the argument that it was an easement, they all have to drive up and down it, that makes that in their public eye to see, and ultimately that'll be your decision to make tonight. On June 10th, the postcard that you can see here will return from the original notice of violation. On June 19th, an inspection of the property pursuant to the violation compliance time showed no change in it, no change in the properties. On June 20th, a notice of hearing was sent certified mail to the property owner of record. On June 26th, those postcards were returned signed. The hearing was scheduled for July 20th. Copy of the warning notice is applied here. The original notice of violation and Code Enforcement Board hearing. There is one for each parcel. I just sent these up as samples of what they were, and I did make out one for each individual parcel, which will be logged within the case. The original right of entry forms. This is a comparison photo showing what the rest of the area around those subject parcels look like. The parcel immediately to the right where you can see the balcony is the front yard of Miss Wesley, who lives north of Mr. EU, and then the larger garage structure that you can see in the tree is actually Mr. EU's For your information, the neighborhood infill, I know that's one of the questions you usually ask. This is what constitutes the neighborhood infill land development use, or future land use, I'm sorry. And then also the outdoor storage. Ordinance is there also. Do you all intend to be reading through? When you're ready, I'll move on to the next one.
I can't see it, it's too small for us to see.
Maybe you should just read it out loud then.
I can do that for you. Neighborhood infill, uses allowed. Uses shall be primarily for single-family and multifamily residential and public uses. Civic uses are not required, but may be approved by the county with a detailed plan and demonstration of need. Commercial projects shall be limited to neighborhood serving commercial uses, which may be allowed if applicable, if compatible with the surrounding neighborhood in use, size, character, and scale. There is a demonstrated need for such development. Neighborhood serving commercial uses shall be governed by criteria set forth in section E. And then the outdoor storage, 5.0708, primarily exterior storage of junk and debris, non-operating vehicles. No owner of a premises shall allow partially dismantled, wrecked, junk, discarded, or otherwise non-operating, non-registered, or unlicensed motor vehicles or junk to remain on such property longer than 30 days. This section shall not apply to any nuisance or junk in an enclosed building or shielded by visual screen or so located on the property that is not readily visible from any public place or from any surrounding public property. This section shall not apply with regard to nuisance or junk in an appropriate storage place or depository maintained in a lawful place and manner by a county or any other public entity, agency, or entity. Specific exclusions to these sections are businesses which emit odors during normal operation, permitted salvage yards, and premises screened by fence or natural vegetation as defined above. A nuisance, since the word nuisance is used in this so often, our LDC defines that as any conditions or use on a premise or building exterior is not specifically permitted, which causes or tends to cause substantial decrease in the value of other property or is otherwise detrimental to the residential area in which such premises are located. This includes, but is not limited to, the following: the keeping or depositing on or the scattering over the premise of accumulations of junk, trash, and debris, the keeping or disposing on or the scattering over the premise of wrecked, inoperable, discarded, unusable objects or other equipment such as automobiles, other vehicles, mechanical equipment, furniture, white goods, cans, or containers. And then specifically in the Walton County Municipal Code, it defines primarily all of your construction debris under the litter ordinance. And it defines litter as the means of any refuse or rubbish, including but not limited to paper bottles, cans, glass, crockery, scrap metal, plastic, rubber, yard trash, tar paper, lumber, masonry, concrete, drywall, packing and crating materials, discarded appliances, junked automobiles, tires, tree, and shrub trimmings, leaves, disposable packages and containers, and any other solid waste that may be visible to the eye.
Nicely done. Thank you.
As of this morning, I went out and did a re-inspection just to see if there had been any progress, and there has not been any progress. And if anything else, it looks like more stuff has been added since the initial inspections have been done.
I'm sorry, repeat what you just said. There
No progress.
have not been any.
As of this morning, there has been no progress to complete any of the cleanup or to get the properties cleaned up. And if anything, it looks like more stuff has been added since the initial inspection.
I have a question.
Well,
Yes, sir.
he's gonna finish, yeah,
Give
let
me 1 second.
let him finish, then we'll ask him questions,
Not
okay?
quite done.
Well,
One last thing.
is it something that needs to be asked
It's
now?
just a simple question.
Go ahead, ask.
Do I understand it correctly that all this can be solved by the construction of a fence along the road to prevent a 6-foot fence that prevents anyone from seeing the lots? Is that essentially correct?
I'm gonna say no in that description.
Well, but look, I think we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's,
Yeah.
let
That
you
would be a
finish.
discussion for
We'll
you
get to,
guys.
we'll get to it, okay, but I don't think now's the right
Yeah,
time.
that,
So,
that would be a ultimate question for you guys to, something you'll have to figure out.
All right, Kurt, you want to finish your
Yeah.
recommendation?
Actually, give me one more
Conclusions?
second, one more second.
Yeah.
It's actually, after I filled this out, I actually had the complainant stop into the office today.
Yeah.
Probably within the last 3 hours. And she wanted to add to the case. She actually submitted to me 4 letters, which I included in the packets with you guys, or with your co-board attorney and everything else. And basically, they are additional surveys showing exactly what I showed you with the easement and ingress easement for both her parcel that her husband owned, the parcel they are currently leasing, which is right across the street or right next to the subject parcels there that are in.
And you want to introduce these as evidence?
Yes.
Have
they're
you
all-
shown them to Devin?
Yes, they're all in the packet.
Do you have the right to,
Sure. That was all the items at the end, all the letters here, the surveys, yep,
Where? You said,
yep, same thing. That one,
that,
that one, and that one,
and where else?
that one, yep, that one. Next one would be another, one of those pages there, this one specifically shows the parcel ID is 0010. There is a,
Is this boundary survey here?
it's probably farther in there. That one,
That's another one, I'm trying to find that one. Yeah, I mean, this is all,
is this the first time, Devin, you've seen this stuff?
absolutely.
Well, you know, this is getting a little late in the case to present additional evidence. I mean,
It was
it
actually
seems,
just presented to us today, Mr. Chairman.
well, I realize that, but then do we need to continue the matter to discuss it? I mean,
well, I don't
It's-
know that it would make much of a difference because all of this, relatively speaking, should not be new to him. This is his land, he lives down there, he would know it all already. All these surveys wouldn't be something new, he would already know where the easements are.
yeah, but if you're going to introduce it to evidence, you at least have to let him look at it as evidence and tell us whether or not he's
We
going
can
to
take a
object to it
recess for him to
in
review.
conclusion. Well, I'd rather not do that. If we could do it in 5 minutes, we're going to sit here.
Okay.
Okay, so why don't you guys see if you can't, Devin, you have a right, listen,
We can take it out.
I mean,
Devin, you have the right to object to this as evidence if there's a good reason. If there isn't,
I object to the fact that I haven't seen it. I mean, it's just placed upon it. I mean, you know.
The ultimate point of that was is that there was letters from each one of them stating that one of the property owners that they own the subject part, they own these particular parcels north, and that, yes, they
in the street.
don't like the jumping debris, basically, is what it
Okay.
all comes down to for all the letters. So,
okay, then can I accept them into evidence? Devin, I'm asking you. Do you have an objection?
Screened by a 6-foot-high fence.
I mean, I don't know, I'm having legal representation with him right now. I mean, now I feel like I should have brought something with me. I
Well, some,
thought here we discuss something. Leave them out until we have a chance to look at them if we decide to.
so you do object.
Yes, I object, and if we decide to continue this.
And I
Mr.
have the
Senate, I
right to,
just briefly, in response to Mr. Agu's argument, frequently, individuals who have a code case, the first time they see the evidence is when they actually come for the code hearing. So I would.
so you're saying this is not an unusual set of circumstances?
Yes,
And I
sir.
should accept them into evidence?
And in all reality.
Is all that evidence public record anyway?
With the exception of the individuals that wrote the letters to us, more than likely.
But the
I mean,
drawings-
The surveys would be by individual surveyors for each individual property owner. He would have all the surveys for his properties. It would be more difficult to find a survey for another property unless you paid a surveyor to get it. It's not, the property appraiser doesn't carry surveys for everybody's property everywhere. However, the legal, recordings on the deeds themselves would spec out the dimensions and the aspects of that, in their legal description.
My take on it is, Mr. Chairman, that the new evidence is irrelevant.
Well, I wouldn't say it was irrelevant, but I would say it was, we'd already heard that general attack already, so.
Yeah.
Whether, yeah,
Suggestion. I mean, I wouldn't say it is either necessarily, but I would say probably the first time he's seen any of the evidence tonight is tonight that presented
Right.
before that. So, I mean, why don't we go back to what you suggested, if he wants to take a few minutes to review the letters? If the county is going to enter them into evidence or proposes doing that, then we'll just take a few minutes and let him look at them and see if he wants to.
Okay, well, given what,
Let's put them in here, whatever, if that makes.
I don't think the case is gonna turn on these.
It's line of
Code
sight.
enforcement feels better, or whoever complains feels better, put them in here.
All right, we're gonna accept it into evidence, and we're gonna go on from here. No objection, they are part of the evidence, whatever exhibit. All right, well, I think we've got a pretty good idea what they are. You wanna go on to the conclusions?
I will absolutely. Conclusion of law. This is a lawfully constituted code enforcement proceeding convened pursuant to Chapter 162, Part 1, Florida statutes, and Chapter 12, Walton County Land Development Code. The code board has jurisdiction over the subject matter and the respondent. Notice of this proceedings has been duly provided to the respondent as required by county code. The respondent, Devin Igue, by reason of the foregoing facts, is in violation of 5.07 of the Walton County Development Code. The respondent is subject to the enforcement jurisdiction of this code board. Recommendations for enforcement. It is my recommendation that the code board determines the following. 1, the parcel numbers as stated on the slide show are located within the unincorporated area of Walton County and is subject to chapters 5.0708 of the Walton County Land Development Code. 2, that proper notice of this hearing was given to the respondent. 3, that a violation of the Walton County Land Development Code section 5.0708 does exist on these properties. 4, the respondent is to correct the violations within 30 days of the date of this order. The respondent is further ordered to then contact Walton County Code Enforcement Department to arrange for a reinspection of the subject properties to verify compliance with the board's order. And 5, that if the respondent fails to comply with the above actions or fails to bring the properties into compliance with the applicable codes, ordinances, and regulations according to this board's order, the board assesses a $450 administration fee and a fine of $250 per day per violation until the properties are brought into compliance.
Okay.
And that ends it.
All right, I'm gonna let, just so everybody knows, we as the board are gonna question Mr. Rose, and then Devin, I'm gonna give you the opportunity to question him. And then when you get done doing that, you have the right to address us, okay? But first, among the board members, is there any question that needs to be asked to Mr. Rose?
Were the easement, and your title search, how is the easement actually dedicated? Is it dedicated to all owners north of
It's on
the
every
county
individual
maintained that?
property, every individual property, which, give me 1 second, I will go to that slide for you so that you can, I can show it to you.
Is it dedicated for the benefit of exclusively the property owners north of the county maintained access, or for the public in general, or?
Mr. Lovell, I guess to answer your question, it's not dedicated to the public, it's dedicated to the property owners to the north of Mr. Igue.
Okay.
Yeah, it says specifically on it found in the description of the easement, found in the legal description of one of the parcels, it specifically states, subject to and together with an easement for egress and ingress and public utilities over the east 20 feet of the west 565 feet of said subject parcel. And then it gives southeast 1/4 of southeast 1/8.
And in fact, is that where the road is?
The current road, no. The green, and that's where on the other slide here, that green line represents where that particular wording is on each one of those parcels. So each parcel on the left-hand side of that road had that particular wording in their legal description.
And that green line is that easement,
That is supposed to be the easement, correct.
and you don't have one where the road shows on the same slide, do you?
Where the road is actually on this slide, it's Campbell Street, the road kind of meanders on this lead.
Can you
Come
see on
south?
the left lower lot where
Yeah.
it says Camel Street? right
Yeah.
there, in dark print?
Oh, it's down, it's dropped down that far, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's actually right, if you can see it, it's right below my cursor, it's
But-
where Campbell Street runs.
And then does it-
Runs-
But that is
Oh,
the
I see.
material.
It's a dirt road. You can go out there in one day.
Okay,
and
we
move it.
just wanted
It's
to
a
clarify.
dirt unimproved road,
Yeah.
it's not, it was basically, at some point in time, it was just labeled as an ingress and egress point, and over the years, it has meandered that with.
I got it.
As a dirt road, but the actual specific ingress egress, easement is where that green line is, and it's located on those parcels.
And do the property, do the east and west abutting property lines of those parcels, do they split that easement, or is it all on one?
It's all on one side.
Which side is it on?
It's on the west side of the easements. So specifically on the highlighted parcels, the ones, which in this case would be all the parcels on top. All the parcels below do not have that easement listed on there.
North is to the left.
North is to the.
North is on this side here.
Oh, that's to the west side, okay.
Yeah. This would be the west,
Yeah, yeah,
east.
gotcha.
Okay. So just that one, or just parcel on top,
That's not
so,
correct, that's not correct.
The green line runs
West is
north
the
and
other
south,
side.
is that correct?
The east is the other side, south is that.
The green line runs north and south.
The green line runs north and south.
And that, where your arrow is now, that's north.
That is north, yes. Correct?
Yes. And the green's in the wrong place.
The green is not on.
It's by the surveys you submitted, I mean, look at it.
Yeah.
Look at it, look at it. That's that's the lot across the street, that's setting to the east. The easement is on this side.
It is, this doesn't show the easement.
I know.
This shows the existing Campbell Street, it shows.
That's not a street.
Pass it
Well,
to
I
the-
understand.
just tell them to read
Sorry.
it. 507.
It said for that side of the road, that's their road.
Oh,
It
good.
says,
On top.
understand that, but what I'm saying is that
I'm
that
just,
easement,
yeah, I'm just saying it's in the wrong place.
but it's not listed there, it's not.
No, before when you were doing north, you're right, that's north, okay, you got it.
Okay.
You want to ask?
The green is a dirt path, it's not the easement, it's not the legal description.
The
Right.
green line on that slide, on this slide that we're showing, is where the easements are located. They're on the
Right, right, on the
west
other
part.
side.
Right. They're not on the east part.
Right. Which is for that side of the road.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
And the other side of the road has their own legal written for access on the back side of this property, as per the survey you submitted here
Correct.
this afternoon. So the ingress for this side of the road is on that side, which it doesn't exist, because the road is in the
Right.
wrong place.
Right.
And,
Would-
and the
Well, now
egress
I'm
for
totally
the other lot is
confused.
on the other side,
I'm not.
but there, there's no way of getting to the property.
I understand that, but that really doesn't have any relevance to where this is.
You guys,
I mean, I'm not
if you
following
read the
where
paragraph,
another easement would have
where the
relevance to
street
where
is has nothing to do with it.
Let me ask this.
If you have a
um,
lot, you gotta put a screen on.
Is there any, private property sign at the termination of the county access, or no trespassing signs or anything like that?
When you first enter it, no. Until you get all the way down towards the end, and then recently, since this case has been adjusted, now I know Mr. Yu has put up more private
They've
property.
been up and people have thrown them down, and I probably have a good idea who that is, now that I have cameras. But I have, starting 300 feet ahead, I have a private property sign on each side, and there's been private property signs put up there. I got a lot of people riding back there. And for years, I used to run my tractor up and down the road. Now the road is just horrible. You know, and now there's a driveway, see, it's in the wrong place. It's in the wrong place.
On any of the other parcels that we see drawn in here, is there debris
The one,
similar to what's?
no,
Regional Utilities has one, I disagree with that. Regional, I can take you, you'll drive by 3 different places that have debris in their yard, at least on Campbell Street, right now, one being Regional Utilities.
Has there been any complaints other than?
no.
Can you clarify something for me, something we've just said? There's only debris on one of these lots?
No, it's on all 4 of the parcels that is in pink.
Okay. And can all 4 of those parcels be seen from the the access road that goes to the houses to the north?
I believe all those pictures that he took were from outside, off the property.
Yeah, but I don't know how many lots he showed us.
He showed us all 4 of the lots.
Yeah, all 4 of the properties.
From the easement.
Well, 3 of the properties are
From the
usually
north.
seen
Look
from
at
the
section
easement.
B.
The 4th property, which sits down here to the back, can actually
Look
be
at
seen
section
from
B.
this property, where we obtain access from to take photos of the rear property, because otherwise it's virtually covered.
From the houses to the north.
Correct.
All right, we're kind of chasing the wrong place here. It's section B of this that really is gonna pertain to what we're doing. We don't really care about section C. The
Yes.
complaint was section B,
But
right?
Mr. Stein, the complainant was cited under section C.
So, under section C, but then,
Yes, sir.
under section C, it would have to be a public place.
Yes, sir, and I
But
get,
under section B, it wouldn't have to be a public place.
that's true, but under section B, we'd be required to prove that the surrounding property owners had a diminished property value. And that could be difficult for us to prove. So the question for you is whether or not the access easement that provides access to the lots to the north constitutes public.
Yeah, the whole
That's the
thing
question.
turns on public or private.
Yes, sir.
So, if we're done asking Mr. Rose questions, then Devin, you can ask him the question, or you can come up and talk to us, and then,
I'd like to come up and talk.
okay, come on up.
And Mr.
You know what?
I
Yeah,
was just gonna let you know that there's someone here from the public who would also like to speak.
okay, and they can speak too.
We'll have to swear them in if they
Yeah.
haven't. Have they been sworn in already? We'll swear them in when they get ready to speak.
I'm gonna let Devin go next. But you can swear him in, go ahead, do it.
Is Mr.,
No,
we're gonna have the public, could you raise your right hand, state your name, please? Repeat after me. I solemnly swear or affirm that I will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I solemnly swear and affirm I will tell the whole truth and
Nothing but the truth. Thank you.
okay, Devin, please.
Okay. There's 507 Broadway.
Didn't bring anything, didn't say, didn't think I wouldn't have to. This goes back a long time. First of all, let me say I've lived on Campbell Street, either renting or living on it since 1989. I own several pieces of property on it, as you can see. As we know in Walton County, there's probably a lot more deed in the courthouse than there is land out here. This goes all the way back to when Lane Reese was in office, and they came and paved the end of Campbell Street up about 300 feet, and they stopped and came here and pleaded and said, hey, why don't we get all together? It was before water and sewer. There used to be a water well down the road, and everybody was on septic tanks. So as Walton County has grown and cut teeth, there's a lot of issues, and what happens is these last few areas are the ones that are being impacted, with inundated with people buying these things, and to what I believe, they're trying to make them something they're not. First of all, the piece of the people that made the complaint are renting a place, and they just brought another RV in there. I noticed there's not a copy of what's over there. There was one RV there for years. The people would come and go, and let me tell y'all, I think this all initiated because now it's come to the point to where, as you saw in the package they presented here, what I paid for this land, or the assessed value, I've got a lot of money in here for a driveway. It's $110,000 worth of lot, so I brought up and down here so I could have ingress and egress. The ingress and egress is not where it's supposed to be. I don't know how they obtained any right to cross over an ingress and egress that has trees now. The building material has been there for years and years. And what has happened is I've had to contact those owners and tell them, as I told them, and when they bought that piece of property, has no guarantee on the title insurance for ingress and egress. It doesn't. And what has happened is, whether it's caused harm to property value, well, somebody is leasing, or they just recently purchased a percentage, I think, down the road of a lot that's in some kind of turmoil. There's 4 or 5 people on it, which is a lot further north. But the people, bottom line, the people on this side of the road, their ingress and egress has nothing to do with that 20-foot green line. As to the new surveys that's been in there, if you look on the back side of there, there's a point down the road to where this egress goes over and then up the back side of these lots. So these people on this side have been illegally crossing the road, or crossing my property that has property signs on it, private property, for years. And apparently they've even leased it now, or sold it, or sold a piece. So apparently property's selling down there. This building material has been there for years. Being in construction, being green conscientious, of not filling up every dumpster with something, and I admit sometimes it changes, it gets rattled. And actually I disagree with nothing's been done out there, because that vehicle's been parked for over 2 months, or a month. So the vehicle's been parked. And if there are more material out there, you've taken pictures before, I would sure like to see new pictures of new material, because I can actually show you where I've got form boards down by Oyster Lake. They're 2-foot form boards that I use to pour monolithic foundations. And they're down there pouring slabs at, purchased 6 lots there on 38 down there, and I'm building a couple of spec houses. And they're form boards, and I'm not gonna throw them in the dumpster every time I use them. A lot of this is screened. The only way you can see some of this, if you took a picture from the road and looked, that most of this stuff is either screened with vegetation or fences. Now, if you get right in front of it and look at this way, and you're standing on my property illegally, yeah, you can take a picture of it. So there's a couple of things I disagree with what he said about nothing being done. There's actually been stuff removed from there, and I disagree 100% with that. And if there is new stuff, or you do speculate there's new stuff, I would sure like to see the pictures, because I know the vehicle's been covered. It's a 1969 International Harvester. One day, when I slow down and quit raising kids and all that, I'd like to restore it. But typically, all this stuff's been here for a long time. It wasn't until recently that I informed the people that were illegally crossing over my property that there was going to be an issue from now on for them illegally crossing my property, that the complaints started. I mean, this stuff's been here. And periodically, if I have pieces of all thread that might be there, I might move some boards, grab 5 all threads, and it might be 2 weeks before I restock the lumber. But it's good lumber. And it's stuff that I do use. And it's stuff I earn a living with. And I have in Walton County for many years. And nobody's ever complained. You know, you see the picture of the boats.
Quick question.
Yes, sir.
On what you're just saying. When you say illegally crossing your property, are you talking about going up and down that easement that we've been talking about?
No, they're not going down the easement. The easement's not there. The dirt road is not the
Can't
easement.
you going up and down Campbell Street?
It's not, Campbell Street stops way down the road. That's
The
what
pavement?
The pavement, correct. Then it becomes ingress and egress for property owners.
Your address, sir, is Campbell Street.
I understand what it is. I understand it. I'm with you. I mean, I'm absolutely with you there. But legally, and that's what we're here to talk about, legally, that is not, that egress, I mean, does the address make it a road? I mean, it's still private property. It's still private property.
Someone made it a road.
Well, we got Santa Rosa Beach that we get mail at. So, I mean, it's just whatever
Does a mailman deliver you mail?
Sure.
Pardon?
Absolutely.
Well, how does he know where it is? How does he get there?
I give him permission to use it. He's driving over my property.
You give him permission to go down Campbell
Absolutely.
Street?
And I used to maintain it. I used to actually run my tractor up and down it. And now it looks horrible. I mean, I'm just telling you that legally going, binding and this and that, there's where it is. There's where it's supposed to be. This is supposed to be on this property side. not this property owner's side. I've purchased these pieces in order to guarantee my access there. That's why you see so many pieces there. So what's happened is, I've tried to come to the county and resolve this. The easement, you can't drive that 20 feet. There's trees and everything else.
You're talking about on the legal, the actual
Absolutely.
legal easement?
Absolutely.
The dirt road, or what, the
Absolutely.
part that
I
is,
invite you
what-
down the road.
excuse me, just let me clarify. So the dirt road or the part that is accessible by vehicle or whatever is not on that legal easement?
Absolutely
It's
not.
on your
That's,
property?
that's correct.
So,
It's
so
supposed to-
hold on, so if those owners of the property north where if they were to clear the actual legal easement to provide legal access on the legal easement, that would be off of your property or on your property still?
It would be on my other parcel.
Your all other parcel.
But it's just for that side only. This side that made that they took the pictures from, it has an easement on the very, and like I said, their title insurance doesn't even guarantee them ingress and egress. Here's their survey. I'm just using papers that they submitted. If you look at their survey, it'll show you, where's the one? It'll show you that their easement, and I explained that to Mr. Rose, and here it is. There's their easement on the backside. Long before you get down to these lots, it changes, and that's why these prescriptions are written on these lots only and not way up the road. Because up here, about 5 or 6 lots, for these lot owners, on this side, you can see a road on their side. Now, I bought these properties over here so I could have egress to mine. I spent $110,000 to make sure I had egress to my property.
Okay. Time out.
So,
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
can I ask a question, make a statement? The code enforcement officer violated Mr. Egalis?
I got it.
On paragraph 50708C of the code. And I'm just going to read that to you. It says, exterior storage of non-operating vehicles, junk, or debris. No owner of a premises shall allow partially dismantled, wrecked, junk, discarded, or otherwise non-operating, non-registered, or unlicensed motor vehicles or junk to remain on such property longer than 30 days. This section does not apply with regard to any nuisance or junk in an enclosed building or shielded by a visual screen or so located on a property as not to be readily visible from any public place or from any surrounding public property. The section shall apply within regard to
shall not
nuisance.
apply.
My point is this. Nobody's arguing where ingress, egress is what. All they're saying is, if you're gonna have junk on your lot, you've gotta put a 6-foot fence around it so people don't see it. That's the question.
No, the question is the easement a public place?
It's not.
Okay?
My argument is it's
People,
not.
it has a county address and people are living on it.
It
Yeah,
doesn't
but-
make it,
They're
Listen,
not?
doesn't
That
make
doesn't make it, I live on a county road, now a county-maintained road. Walton County has not enjoyed a strict interpretation of the same ordinances for a consistent period of time. The road on which I live, I used to maintain much as he did. In this case, people moved in, they lived off this dirt road, the county wouldn't take it, the developer never deeded it to the county, but eventually enough people complained, and now it's a county-maintained road. So the line between where he's doing this and where the road got paved 300 feet up Campbell is not exactly black and white. So the question at this point is where they brought this complaint under section C, which says readily visible from any public place or surrounding public property. Okay, is the
He wasn't
easement?
cited on that.
Right. They said, the county's argument is that the easement is a public
It's not.
place. Okay? And that's a matter of some debate.
You knock on anybody's door on Campbell Street, and they'll tell you that I've driven my tractor up and down that road with my time, my equipment, my gas. And for some of these people even make these complaints that have been there for years, and never even said, I thank you. And I told them in the beginning, and they knew when they bought that piece of property, and these, and the Urbans that are now making the complaint, that have bought the property, I guess is, you know, there's property selling, so how do we prove devalue? what it is, it's the people coming in here doing land grabbing and trying to make something that it's not. The legal description defines easements, where you can drive and where you can't drive. And I've gone to the county and made that you knock on anybody's door on Campbell Street and they'll say, Devin religiously, even the mail lady, kept this road fine. I have not touched it since 6 months since all this started. And you drive down that road now, what's it like now driving down that road? It's got gullies this deep. And you know it does. And I've done that just for the fact of this. I came to the county 20 years ago to try to resolve this. And what has happened is now that I have to do something legally, and I have served, I'm in the process, and they know it. And that's why they made the code complaint. Because I told them, I cannot afford you to drive over I gotta be able to do something with this land. You see the property taxes I'm paying on this? I have a right to personally enjoy my private property.
Okay.
And
Look,
so,
I've got a question.
I might want to put it back in the cage for my son.
I mean, and for the attorney, egress is a matter of common law, right? If you own property that's not touched by a public road, then you have the right to go in and exit your property.
But not necessarily that easy. They have to, you know, if you're landlocked, you do have the ability to go and get, but you have to pay for that easement. It's not free. They have to pay for the easement, and I don't know that
But
that's
you
been
pay a
done.
license from the people, from the property owners. I have gone, like I said, I've got 20 years experience on
Now,
that.
the question here is, do other persons other than the property owners, do they use that road for ingress and egress? Because it's a public, someone from the public can see it, but there again, is it public property? And that's a question you've got to answer.
Is there any kind of public services or maintenance, mosquito control?
Is there electricity running to those
Well,
buildings?
yeah, but that's utilities, that's a co-op, not on the
Does mosquito
No.
control doesn't spray there? They don't
That's
spray
right
down?
now.
Does mosquito control spray your road?
I don't know,
Yes.
yeah,
They do.
maybe, yeah.
Do the people,
I mean, does that make it a, I'm sorry,
the
does
own-
that make it, does that,
Well,
that's why I was- I mean, I
Excuse
can
me
put
a minute, too many
sprays
people,
on,
I didn't hear your
spray.
question.
Oh, I asked him if mosquito control sprayed that road. Now, they spray private roads with permission, but that, you know, that doesn't
With-
necessarily make
with
it
permission, right,
public,
got that.
but it means that the public is on the road. So
And
that-
the answer was yes?
The answer was yes.
I mean,
there's an easement that's drawn on the public plats, right?
From what it
On this, on the deeds of the property owners, and the 20-foot easement is for the people on the right-hand side. The people that complain are landlocked.
This was
No.
subdivided,
Huh?
these lots were subdivided,
A long time ago, yeah.
and something was
And when they closed
issued
on
to
it,
the county, and it was
What
clear,
deed was
when-
not needed to the
and it was clear when those lines were drawn on some piece of paper somewhere, that those were landlocked lots.
Well, let me clarify something, because I'm hearing there that there is, and I think you just said, there is a legal easement north and south through all those parcels. Now, the road, the access may not be on it, current access, but there is a legal easement, which in my mind makes them they're not landlocked.
But they're not, right.
I mean, if they want to go
The
and
road's
clear
not
that
in.
easement
The-
to get the
and that's what I
access,
was
then they're not
saying. People
landlocked.
that
I mean, is that correct or not?
The people that complain are not using, the easement that they're supposed to use. They're trying to use the easement for these lot owners, which isn't even in the right place coming through property that I have. And like I said, if we have that whole big, there's, with lot, up here, for this side, you stay where I think he made the comment how, yeah, it's just written on a couple lots. Yeah, there's 5 or 6 lots. As you proceed up, it changes. An easement is written on the 100 by 100 square for this side lot owners, which I own 2 houses on that side, and I own property on that side. So what happens is it splits off way up here. You stay on this 20-foot easement down here, but this one splits off down here, goes up and goes over, and that's how the people on this side, the people that made the complaint are renting, are on property on that side, they don't live there, first of all. It's an RV trailer. They're not permanent residents, and they're not using their access and ingress for their property. And when they bought the property, their title insurance did not guarantee them ingress and egress, and buyer beware. I mean, I didn't make the rules.
Okay, Devin, let's, wait. Go on.
Well, those two buildings that were shown in the picture that are to the north of you, neither one of them look like an RV. What were those two
He
structures?
didn't take a picture of that. I mean, you could take a picture. to
Well,
make it look-
what were the two structures? Are they to the north of your property?
One of them's mine,
One's yours.
correct.
The two garages.
And then one is Kim Weston, who's lived there. I mean, I've known Kim a whole lot. I mean, that's,
Well, is he north of your property, sir?
yeah, yeah.
How does he get there?
She drive, I give her permission to drive through.
I see.
I give her permission to drive through, absolutely.
But there are other people.
And that's called a license in the state of Florida. You give someone a license and you can take that license back from them. I'm sure you're aware of that.
So she does not, her property does not have an easement, legal easement?
It does.
It
Even my easement's in the wrong place. That's why I
Okay.
bought the property over. I'm crossing my property. I bought those parcels, I spent $110,000 on the other side because the county wouldn't do nothing about it. And now I've got 3 pieces of parcels that I bought so people can access this. I gotta be able to do something, I got a right to my property that I bought there.
Well, but the problem that we're looking at tonight is not that of egress, it is of junk and debris.
And it's construction material. I disagree with John. I
Can
disagree
you,
with John.
from the paved road on Campbell Street, can you see any
It's
of your,
1,000 feet. You never see it.
you cannot see any of, you're
No, sir.
saying
No, sir.
under oath that you can't see,
It's 1,000 feet at least.
does that mean you can't see it?
You can't see it.
From the paved road on the is a public,
Sir, you couldn't see it if this is where the junk lot started, and you're even back on this, my dirt driveway back here 50 feet, you can't see it. This is all grown-up woods. All grown-up woods.
so with the
I've
person
got
that's made this
thousands of
complaint,
Huh?
you've got some kind of disagreement with the person that made this complaint about
Correct.
egress?
Because I have told them that their egress and ingress, they no longer can use my property, that they need to make arrangements to use their ingress and egress. Now, they've moved stuff, and they have stuff sitting, they got an RV sitting back here on their easement, and they got this all fenced off, and, I mean, how do you fence off? I didn't fence off any easement. They fenced all this off.
You say that you can put anything you want on your property that you want to, because no, it's not, you need to say that if you're gonna stand, you can't say that your
I'm a
stuff,
contractor.
I mean, I saw it, that was debris.
I'm a contractor, well, I can show you too where I use it too. I mean, I admit, some of it is, some of it will sit there maybe, but periodically, I assure you, sir, if you would come back and look at that in 6 months, and I disagree 100%,
I wouldn't wanna wake up and look out the window towards the beach and see that.
I'll make what, I mean, yeah, I mean.
All right, okay, look, enough of this, okay? There's somebody,
It's construction
hey,
material for me.
Devin,
I make a living.
Devin, enough for now. There's somebody else that we're gonna listen to, is that right? Can we give that person the opportunity
Sure.
to speak?
Please state your name and
Later.
address.
Kristen Hamby Irvin,
Can you spell that Hamby Irvin?
HAMBY-IRVIN. And I was not planning to speak, but,
Have you been sworn in?
Yes.
We, I told him.
something is like very, very nerve wracking, but I have to disagree, 100% with a lot of things that Mr.
Are you
Rodriguez-
a neighbor?
I live on 318 Campbell Street, and we also own, the acreage, the 1 acre lot behind it.
One of those lots that we've been looking at all night?
Yes, we are to the north of Mr. Icko.
Okay, okay.
I believe that the property that you saw, where you can see from the fence, that is my backyard. That is what I wake up and look at every day.
Okay.
And, so how he said that no one that filed a complaint has ingress and egress. Well, Kim Wesley filed a complaint with us, and she lives right across the street from us. The dirt road comes in, and we both see that all the time. I do have a fenced-in, area, but how he can say that there's no ingress and egress for us and that it's private, I do not understand that. And the public, this is just for y'all to know. We're from Atlanta, and we came down and we bought this property from the Smiths, and then we also bought the whole acre that is behind it. And when you come in north down Campbell Street, the end of our acre backs up to the National Forest. And that road, Campbell Street, you can walk all the way down it to the National Forest, okay? And all of our neighbors and everybody up and down that street walk down that street to go to the National Forest. And so they will tell you it is viewed by the public numerous times. And you as the county people should be very aware of this because people drive up and down that road. It's right there, right past Tom Thumb. Snappy Turtle's right here. They rent bicycles from Snappy Turtle and ride down that road, and it is horrifying for the city. That's all you need to do is ride down that road and look at it. If you don't think the public sees it, they see it every day. The FedEx man sees it, my mailman sees it, comes and delivers my mail. The DirecTV people see it. We have DirecTV. The fire department, we have a fire hydrant, which I would like to show this, if I may, to you. As Mr. Ego has stated that he covered up one of his cars with
Wait,
the car.
before you show it to us, you gotta show it to him,
Okay.
and he can object to
And
And
this.
I've got a picture of her parking in front of that hydrant yesterday.
No,
She just got into town last night. She hasn't been here for how many months? You wake up every day and see it. When's the last time you done
I'll
it?
wait until every day.
You got-
Let's say, hey, Devin, let's keep it proper, okay?
I mean,
And I'll ask Mr. Iggy to say,
Yep.
whose car that is.
Do you,
Part of this is Sam Wesley's, the old, the old International is mine, and Sam owns that lot. That's not on your lot, I don't think. I'm pretty sure it's not.
Absolutely is, and I'll have the survey.
And it may be, it may not be. It's right there on the edge. And I could, and Sam owns them lots.
No, he doesn't. Kim owns that
It
lot.
came up from the divorce, Sam and.
No, Kim owns
Houston,
that
Sam
lot.
Houston.
And, but it's on my lot. We just
okay,
have to do the
okay,
survey.
look, we're not gonna get anywhere here, so let's just stop,
Need to
okay?
address it, need to address the members,
Well,
rather
may
than
I
the
show
chair.
you the pictures of the
Yes.
debris that is actually on my property?
Yes.
Thank you.
Devin, you are gonna allow those into evidence?
I'd like to show y'all a picture of her truck parked in front of the fire hydrant.
Well, Devin, the question is, can she show these to us? Do you object to their being introduced as evidence?
Yeah, I object to it. I don't want.
And on what basis do you object
I
to?
know the things there and.
He's not objecting, he's waiting, he's saying,
Until I get a
On what
survey showing
basis?
exactly where it's landmarked and it's on her property.
It's right
I'm not
here.
gonna say because it's a picture, it's on her property. I'm not gonna do that.
All right, let's see the pictures and let's get on with this.
This is my property. This is a new survey that we just had done. And 318, and we own this. Fire hydrant is right there.
Where's the road you drive?
This is Campbell Street. Campbell Street is actually on our property. It runs through our property on 318. We have a post office box, we get mail there. Campbell Street runs through our property. We actually gave,
Dirt road.
yeah, we actually gave part of our property up for Campbell Street and for people to come down.
Gave it
This
up
is
to
our-
whom? Gave it up to
To
whom?
the county,
This
to
place
the,
needs a forest.
Just to the road. This will show you Mr. Ego's truck, and you can plainly see where the fire hydrant is. It's not even accessible
just do one at a
to the
time.
fire company, which we've been in touch with, and they're coming to do a report. But you can see that the fire hydrant is on
Well,
our
certainly,
property.
certainly the fire department's got an easement, they're running water lines down there. That's public.
They're getting to, they ran the water and sewer because there was a well on the road and Walton County, had to get rid of the well. So they ran water and sewer.
There used to be a regional utilities facility there, so that's why the water exists. Regional owned a lot out there.
Did it go from public water to private water?
No, and I don't know that it's still, I don't know the hydrant's
If
hot.
it's county water and sewage, then that is a public utility.
Does that fire hydrant work?
Yeah, that's the question.
Yes, the fire department is, but we,
Then
when we
it's
first
still
bought
a,
the property,
real water.
Mr. Egan said he was going to move the car, and that has been, you know,
Does the,
a year ago.
the fire hydrant
Yes.
line, is it on Campbell Street?
No, it's actually on our property. But
Okay.
it's on Campbell Street on the meandering dirt road, but it's right there next to the, telephone.
And as far as you know, the pipe for that,
I might have a better picture of it.
Oh,
the
look,
water
If
pipe,
it's there,
the water pipe for that fire hydrant goes up and down Campbell Street,
yes,
so,
it does.
or thereabouts.
Yes, that is their access.
Okay.
And that is power pole that is right there is their access. You can see it on your.
okay, look, we've got a good idea of what the problem is here, okay? And I don't think we need to go back and forth with the detail of any one detail. The basic issue is, right, did they bring the right charge here? Did they say that this is a violation of C, 50708C? Is it a public property? Because they didn't bring it against B.
May I interject? She brought up a point that needs to be addressed before you make any decisions, I feel. She stated that the state park abuts, and the question is, that is public property. Can this nuisance be viewed from that public property?
Yes,
of
we
the
have
state
people
forest?
come down and turn around our driveway 10 times a day.
Wait,
No,
does
no,
Mr.
that's not-
Igo's property abut the park, or is there a lot between the
Yes,
two?
mine does.
Okay.
It's
Yours
in the
does.
road.
Can an individual standing on the state park property view Mr. Ego's property and the junk therein, the junk that's there?
Yes, I would say.
And he would say no.
I would disagree. It's over 200 foot, it's undeveloped, and that might have been what started something.
Ma'am, can they see it if they're standing on your property?
Yeah.
Heck, yeah. I see it every morning I wake up out of my
Well,
window.
she's public.
That's what I
No,
see.
she's not.
Every
No,
morning,
she's on her private
outside my
property.
window.
Is your property fenced?
Yes, it is completely fenced.
But-
And this is what I see
I wanna
every
see what-
morning on both sides of my property.
Again, look, I'm not gonna do this all night, okay? We're not gonna keep looking for little bits and pieces here. We've got to address the issues that are involved. Those issues are, can the stuff, first of all, is it junk? Or is it, as he contends,
Well, there's a
construction
picture.
material,
You
okay?
decide. I don't think he can.
Okay,
It's
or
5 gallon buckets
can it be
filled with
seen, wait,
mosquitoes.
would you let me talk?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, can it be seen from public property? That's what this says, that's what we've got to find to be true. Is it junk? Can it be seen from public property?
With the easements and the water pipes and the
That's the
state park
decision,
and her
that's the
property?
decision
I
that
know
we as a
that-
board are gonna make.
With the water pipes, with the public utilities coming up and down there, I assume there's phone lines, maybe underground somewhere.
FedEx man, the postman.
Postman,
Okay, look, I want to get through the public part of the hearing, I'm going to close the hearing, and then we're going to have this conversation, because I think we've heard enough evidence at this point. So,
I'm done. Thank
I
you for your
hereby
time.
declare the public part of this meeting over, and now the board's going to discuss it as you guys have already started.
I think the junk can be viewed by, someone on public property, including a national park or state park, whichever it is.
Okay, well, we had conflicting evidence about that. She says it can be, he says it
And
can't
I
be.
weighed it,
So,
and I believe that it
and if
can
you
be
look this
so.
thing, clearly somehow you probably could. If the easements are public, then surely you could. If it's the park, maybe you can, maybe you can't.
As far as the easements are concerned about access and egress, I think that's, if you sell a lot that's landlocked, then there's some kind of, goes back to the Magna Carta about getting access. I don't know if Florida ever
Let me make an
tied
interesting,
into that.
let me make an interesting statement. Okay, I've lived here in this county and I've been in this board for some 25 years. And what the elephant in the room here is not being discussed. And that is, it's a way of life that used to exist in this county and things are changing. And those of us who enjoyed the privileges of lower density are now confronting those people who have property rights and came from outside the value system, perhaps of those who had been here for a longer period of time. Okay, so it seems it's inevitable. Progress has come. This is public. Much as we hate to see that way of life go, if you follow the rules, it's gone.
And these rules don't exist in the whole county, correct? These rules only
This,
exist.
this ordinance is good north of the bay as well as south of the bay.
That's kind
Oh,
of
okay.
like,
This,
It's not-
all right. But, okay.
Well, it's a simple solution. It just says that you gotta cover it up, fence it off, you know, put a canvas on the fence,
Right.
hide it from view.
But it says that if it's visible from public property. And we keep
No,
going back to this question about.
It doesn't say public
Yes,
property, it
does.
says
Yeah,
the
it does.
public.
It does too.
No, it says right here, visible
it.
from
Read it.
any public place or from any surrounding public property. So the question is there a viewing point in a public place?
Well, if in fact there is an easement, that's public.
Well,
No.
that's an argument, but.
If
I
the
would-
necessarily.
if the mailman goes down that road and the fireman
Does that make it
and
public?
the water,
That's a matter of discussion, okay? You guys think it, you know, hey, if all those people who serve the public go up and down this easement, therefore it's a public easement. That's one side of the argument. The other one is, hey, it's private land. I gave the guy permission to come fight the fire in my house or bring the mail to me. It's private. So which side of the coin
But
do you
he's
jump
got-
on?
But the park's right there too, and two
Well,
hundred
but
feet is not,
The park,
I mean,
I
from
won't.
what I saw, I mean, we're not talking about some concrete blocks. We're talking about stuff with weeds and vines crawling over it. That's debris and junk.
Yeah, but the
And it
question
ain't
is,
got no business
can you see it from the
where you're
public?
paying the kind of property taxes he's paying.
Mr. Stein, I just want to clarify the county's argument. So we're not arguing that this is public property, that
Right.
the street, it's whether or not it constitutes a public place. So we would concede it's
From
not.
any public place, that's
Yes,
our, that's what we hang our
right.
hat
We
on.
concede that it's not
Yeah.
public property, but what does a
Oh, well, in
public
that
place
case, I'd have to
mean?
agree with you guys.
Well, let me ask the question. Okay, if Mr. Igo or say they were all good, everybody loved and warm and fuzzy about each other, they decided they wanted to gate off that easement from the end of Campbell Street north, could they do it, please?
Yes, sir.
Then that's not public.
It's not a public property, but
public
it may be
property.
a public place.
Viewed
Well,
from a
not
public
if you gate
place.
it.
May I give you the statute, the Florida statute for the definition of public place?
Yeah, that'd be
Okay.
great.
Florida statute, chapter 876:11, 876:21. The term public place includes all walks, alleys, streets, boulevards, avenues, lanes, roads, highways, or other ways or thoroughfares dedicated to public use and owned and maintained by the public authority, and all grounds and buildings owned, leased, and operated and maintained by public authority.
In that case, this isn't
All
a
right, now
public
read,
place. Yeah.
read the statutory easement definition. Hopefully it's
Just 1 second, I'll have to put.
less, more statutory than common law.
Sorry, what was that statute?
80, I'm sorry, hold on. Let me get back, see if I can pull it. It's 826, I believe it was. I'll have to pull it back up. On easements, for a private easement, let me pull up the statute. Okay, under chapter, I believe this is the right place, let's see if I can get it big enough. For an implied grant of way by necessity is defined under chapter 70401 of the Florida statutes, common law and statutory easements.
Okay.
Okay, there's an implied grant of way of necessity. The common law rule of an implied grant of way of necessity is hereby recognized, specifically adapted, and clarified. Such an implied grant exists where a person has heretofore granted or hereafter granted lands to which there is no accessible right-of-way except over her or his land, or has heretofore retained or hereafter retains land which is inaccessible except over the land in which the person conveys. In such instances, a right-of-way is presumed to have been granted or reserved. Such an implied grant of easement in lands or estates exists where there is no other reasonable and practical way of egress or ingress, and the same is reasonably necessary for the beneficial use or enjoyment of the part granted or reserved. An implied grant arises only where there is a unity of title exists from a common source other than the original grant from the state or United States, provided, however, that where there is a common source of title subsequent to the original grant from the state or United States, The right of the dominant tenement shall not be terminated if title of either of the dominant or servient tenement has been or should be transferred for non-payment of taxes or foreclosure. Basically, it doesn't state whether it is under section 2, it states that this is based on public policy, convenience, and necessity. A statutory way of necessity exclusive of any common law rights exist when any land, including land formed by accretion, reliction, or other naturally occurring processes or portion thereof, which is being used or desired to be used for a dwelling or dwellings or for agricultural or for timber raising or cutting.
Okay,
Yeah.
we're lost, yeah.
I think she's,
It doesn't state whether or not it's public or private.
So,
Yeah.
But
so how does that translate, or how does that relate to the public or public places question?
well, if I'll go back, let me go back to this. See if I can pull back up that statute.
Yeah, I guess just to clarify, so the public place as a term is not defined in our land development code.
No.
So there is some ambiguity, and that's why we brought that to the board for you guys to make this determination. As
Okay,
what constitutes
would you,
a public
yeah.
place,
Okay,
not
so
public
we'll-
property, public
Okay,
place.
okay, look, that little statement I made, maybe it was out of place and maybe it wasn't. It comes down to that, though. It's like, which side of this do we fall on? Do we, you know what I'm saying? Is his traditional right to this land and his use of it over all these years to take precedence over what legal rights this woman has when she bought the
if
land?
he owned, if he owned lots big enough to have this in the middle of it, where nobody else, anywhere, without any easements or anything encumbering him,
Well,
he
yeah,
could
then
put any kind of
he
trash
wouldn't be
he
here.
wanted
He
out
wouldn't
there,
be here, yeah.
if nobody could see it.
Right,
But
but,
since there's lots drawn and all that, you give up some of those standard rights. You don't live on a 60-acre farm in
right.
you know, in Defuniak Springs
Right.
somewhere. It's different down here.
Okay, well, we can go either way here. We can
And I'm
say,
saying that
this is a
all that
public-
accretion and moving, that's talking about moving that easement around. And part of that egress and exit is more public than it is private. He can't come in there and he can't put a fence over that egress. That makes it more public
She
than
just
private.
said that he could.
I can't, there's no egress, the easement doesn't exist, it's in the
Well,
wrong place.
they
It's
can
not
put a
easement,
fence,
it's
but
not-
the
And
people
I'm
who
traveling
have
up and down
the
an
easement
easement,
have
they're
to
traveling
have.
over my
have-
property.
You can't do that.
wait, everybody, we're not gonna do this. We're not gonna degenerate to this, okay? So,
He's gotta allow people in and out on Campbell Street.
But as I understand it, that's only the other property owners back.
But you can't, nobody can put junk like that on small lots where other people can have to look at it every day.
but you see how
That's
it,
the whole point of the code, is to let everybody live together in neighborhoods and not have to wake up to that kind of junk. They don't want this junk out there in this county, and that's why this was passed.
all right, I got yours. You're gonna vote that
I'm gonna
he's
vote.
an offender, okay? And that's your right, okay? Maybe I agree with you, maybe I don't. I'm not gonna declare. Is there further discussion?
Well,
If
you
not, I'm
know,
gonna take a vote.
I sort of agree, and the code here is real simple. All he's gotta do is put a screen on that section of fence that's visible. It says right here, if it says,
Well, he's got a lot of fences to put up.
nuisance or junk or shielded by a visible screen or so located on property is not to be readily visible from any public place or any surrounding public property. So if he goes out and buys 100 feet of canvas that's 6 foot tall and hooks it to the fence, this is over.
If that's his fence.
Well, yeah, but I suspect this is an argument of principle as well as practical argument,
Well,
so
we're not-
we need to decide on
We're
among
not
ourselves.
priests, though, we're just trying to meet the
I
code.
know, so we've
Yeah.
gotta make a decision, and the decision is either this is a public place and this ordinance applies and what he has out there is junk, and then he's in violation, or it's not a public place.
In my view, the public place is on the park.
Okay,
And they
we
can see
got you,
over-
you believe it's a
Okay.
public place, you get to vote. Dave, do you have any other questions, comments before I call for the vote?
No, I don't think so, no.
What is the motion?
Well, there is no,
Accept the
okay, but
officer.
before we get to making a motion then, do you have any further comment? No. Okay, then somebody make a motion. You probably are the guy.
Go back to public. Do we have to get a discussion from the audience or anything?
What did it say?
We're still in a private session here.
Right, but we can make a
Closed
motion.
session, not private, closed.
Oh, okay.
We don't have to go back to the public to
Well, a
make a
motion
motion.
to accept the recommendations of the code enforcement officer.
Which was $250 a day fine, and if he doesn't get it in compliance in 30 days, and a $450 administrative fee. Is that correct?
No, what was the number, 250?
It's $250 per day per violation.
Oh, that $1,000 a day, really.
And that would be four
No.
separate parcels.
Well,
So it would be $1,000 a day.
on all four.
If he were to not clean up any of the four, then it'd be $1,000 a day, correct?
That is correct.
And how many days would he have to do that?
30 days, that's what he said.
Well, then I do have a question. Is he required to clean it up, or is he just required to make it, shield it by a visual screen?
He has to come into compliance.
Well, that's what the code says.
Right.
You don't have to clean it up, you just gotta cover it up.
Right, whatever it is, to come into compliance. He has to keep Mr. Rose happy when he comes out to take a look. Okay, so the motion was never made, you and I put it together. Is that the motion that you want to make?
On all four of these, I move that we accept the code officer's recommendation.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
Second.
All right, any discussion? Well, I'd say, look, this goes back and forth. Is the fine part of the motion that we need to accept or refuse now? The fine amount, or can we determine that afterwards if we find him in violation?
The motion contains the fine amount by
Right,
accepting.
so-
But does it have to, is what I'm saying?
You can handle it either way. So I would interpret Mr. Wilson's motion to be to find him in violation on all four properties and a fine amount of $250 a day per property.
Okay, and the motion's been made and seconded. I guess it's too late for me to say something, but I think that's an.
Propose an
You
amendment.
can discuss that.
Oh, okay, I think the fine's way too high.
Okay, I would amend my motion and make it $25 per day rather than $100 per day.
Total or per parcel?
$100 per day per parcel.
Per parcel or for all four parcels?
We got 4 complaints.
Right, so $100 a day or $400 a day?
Well, I'd like to clarify something.
$100 a day.
Are all four of these parcels visible to the public?
Yes, we saw it on that one with the red and green lines.
Look, you aren't gonna get a clear
There-
answer to this one.
That's
You're not gonna get
No,
a clear.
Sir, I'm not asking you, I'm asking the code officer.
so, Mr. Sullivan. All four properties. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Rose. They're visible from the dirt road,
Okay, so.
right,
One-
Mr.
so-
Rose?
All right.
3 of the properties are readily visible from the roadway. One of the properties you can see from the roadway not as clearly. However, you can easily see the 4th property, which is the back parcel, from the adjoining lots.
All the pictures you took that we've seen here from you were taken on the north side that was not the property. In other words, every picture you took was something that could be seen
Off the property.
off the property.
Off the roadway, you mean?
Or
Off of his property.
Off of his property. The picture, there might be
All the photos taken were either taken off of the current dirt road that is Campbell Street or off of her property.
okay, that's,
One or the other.
Okay. All right.
So have you made your amendment in the minute?
yeah, $100 a day, is that too much?
I like the idea. Look, since there's one that's kind of questionable, why not do it, say, $50 a day for 3 of them?
They're all.
But he's saying that the 4th one may not be visible.
Well, he might, let's make it like per,
Okay,
he
make
might
it per, yeah, make it
so
per.
he
Yeah.
can mess up one.
Right,
Okay, all right, $12.50 per day instead of $250 per day.
$12.50.
Per day per complaint,
So it'd be $50 a day if he
$50 a
does
day.
nothing.
yeah.
Okay, and will somebody second that amendment?
I'll second it.
Yeah.
All right, then is there any further discussion?
I'd just like to say, before we vote, that there's nothing that I have heard here tonight, including Renee's definition of public place, that constitutes as being a public, visible from a public place. The private ownership of those properties that are serviced by that easement does not constitute a public place. And I just want to go on record for saying that, as much as I would like to implore Mr. Igow to be a good neighbor, cooperate, cover up his stuff, clean it up. I just cannot, I've not heard anything tonight that convinces me we are dealing with a public place as far as vantage point. And that's what this hinges on.
So no vote.
Well, we haven't voted yet.
We haven't voted yet, and-
He asked for discussion,
Oh,
so.
okay, I thought that-
And the problem is, the deciding vote is clearly mine. And frankly, I don't know.
Mm.
So give me a minute to think about it, and, well, call the vote, okay?
$12.50 a day. I mean, he's gonna either use that stuff or let it rot there. What's he gonna do?
Yeah,
And by the way, I will say, there is a lot of junk in this picture. I don't know what.
No,
else they
Devin,
left out,
don't say a
But
word.
I will make that comment too, there's a lot of junk.
All right. Look, it's an interesting argument that we have. I can go along with the $50 a day. It's like, okay, yeah, you ought to clean it up. You ought to be a good neighbor. Times have changed. He needs to get his shit. Okay. On the other hand, I understand the principle that he's making and that Dave's defending. And that's why I'm undecided. It's easy for me to say, yeah, $50 a day, he'll clean it up or he'll pay it, whatever, okay? But that's not right. We really have to decide whether in fact it is a public place and whether he in fact is in violation.
We may not have to decide that, but the court can decide that. All we're doing.
Oh,
We
we're
are
as a
the
board of
court.
his
We are the
contemporaries.
court.
You are courted if you're
we are.
quasi
Yeah, well,
judicial.
you can't just shirk your
Well, if the
responsibility.
gentleman wants to
I
take
think
us to court.
in larger lots, 50-acre farms, 50-acre things, we could deal with that question. But I think in smaller lots where people are building their homes,
That has nothing to do with public versus private.
Yeah, that's the
I don't care if
problem.
it's 1,000 acre, it has nothing to do with.
I think it
public
does,
versus private.
because you're dealing with.
I think the argument does all that traffic, the water lines, the sewer line, the mailman, does all that constitute making part of his private property a public place? And when I state it that way, I can't go along and think it is.
I
So,
think there's a lot in the property ownership that, there's nobody more conservative about property ownership than me, okay? I fight for beach owners. I don't own beach, the beach thing to me is appalling that people would trample on other people's property rights. And on his
okay, but we're
property
not there
rights-
tonight. Yeah, go on.
All right, but I know that there's, when you get dealing with other people, is what the law is all about. And what this code was trying to do was to handle things like this, where the officers could take care of it by just saying, here's this written down. Oh, I can read that. It sounds, but the gray area is here what we're taking care of. And nobody, I think it's very unreasonable for a man that's got neighbors as close as he does to think that that's acceptable. It's just unreasonable. That any reasonable man would think that's unacceptable. You wouldn't want that in your neighborhood, and I wouldn't want it in mine. And I think the lady from Georgia up here, where I think the basic common law is a little different in Georgia and Alabama than it is here in Florida. But this would have been taken care of a long time ago in either Georgia or Alabama.
Yeah, but we're in Florida.
Right.
Okay, so look, any further comment? If not, I will call for the vote.
Well, that's,
No.
No?
Not yet.
Well, Cindy, can I offer some thoughts, even though I've
Why
recused
don't you
myself? Is that
articulate
appropriate
the
or?
motion so we all have it
I don't
clear?
know if that'd be appropriate.
Yeah, you could keep, yeah.
No. The motion is that Mr. Igo comes into compliance within 30 days, or he faces a fine of $12.50 per property per day, as long as the violation exists.
For each property that's not in compliance.
Yeah, for each one that's not in
The
compliance.
$400 one-time fee applies to,
That, everybody pays that.
is that
That's
for
your
four
privilege.
properties
That's
or
your
one?
right to a
It's the
public
entertainment
meeting.
charge.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, is that,
that's a one-time charge.
but will
For
that,
one property, is what he's asking, is he getting?
Oh.
You have to pay that more time?
No, just one property.
I've looked at all 4 cases of this.
Yeah,
it applies to all 4 cases?
yeah, there's one $450
Yeah, that's
administrative fee, $12.50 per property that doesn't come into compliance within the 30-day period. Okay,
Good.
so I'm gonna call a motion. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
Right.
I gotta go with a public place. Okay, so what happens after all that?
So, there's no violation.
The call goes to the banner? There's no violation.
Right.
How did you vote?
I voted nay.
No, okay.
Is, what kind of, can another complaint be made? When can another complaint be made?
The complaint that would seem, would be section B
Two.
would be where I would go, but
So, any
I'm not
complaint we
a lawyer.
receive, Mr. Rose and Mr. Williams would inspect and see what would be the appropriate violation if there is one. But there's
Another
no
complaint
time
can be
limit.
made at any time.
He's already had 3 different ones. That's another thing too.
Does that end the inquiry on this one? Can we move on to the next one?
3.
Tom,
Yes.
I know you've gotta go.
I gotta go.
Great.
Okay, so I'm gonna walk.
You want to
I
grab the
have
chair?
the pub- that's a part of the record. And the,
Well, we'll see if it comes in.
yeah,
Do I need to sign here?
Without prejudice.
well, it was a nay vote, I mean, it was
Yeah.
a toss up.
No, I mean the minutes or something.
Yeah.
You
Well,
wanna,
I'll
You'll
come
need
by.
to sign the minutes,
I'll come by
yes.
and see you.
gavel it back in public session?
Have you passed the, who do you pass the gavel?
Oh, yeah. I gotta get it.
yes, in the back.
That needs to go on the record as to who passed the gavel.
Dave Lovell, the vice chairman, will hear the next case.
And prior to hearing the next case, I would like to take just a brief bathroom break, like 3 minutes. No more than 5, please.
Dave, call us to order. Let's do this.
All right.
Bird sanctuary or something, they're gonna get taken, you know,
Oh,
whatever.
Are we all back?
I guess.
Everybody that needs
Mr.
to be?
Williams is on the way.
Is Mac and them coming back in? Is it
Yeah.
My apologies.
a problem?
Whose case is this one?
Okay.
Where is she?
All right, calling the meeting of the Code Enforcement Board back to order. We are up to case number 6 on the agenda, which is case number 16-1983, regarding location of 5478 US Highway 98. And a violation regarding sign permits, prohibited signs. Do we have anyone that needs to be sworn in that has not already been sworn in that's going to testify in this case? Nope. Okay.
Is she already sworn in?
Who's presenting this case for the county?
Officer Anna Reichert is,
Are we waiting on her?
she may still be in the restroom. I
Oh,
apologize.
okay. I
Yeah,
think I
she
thought
was in there
I thought we were
just
back.
a-
So
Is this a new case or an old case?
This is a new
New
case.
case.
Yes, sir. I can present the case.
Oh, there's
on
Anna.
time deadline.
there she is. Well, yeah. All right. Okay, Officer Reichert, go for it.
For the record, I'm Officer Anna Reichert.
And you were sworn in earlier, right?
I don't think I was.
Okay.
Would you raise your right hand, please? State your name.
Anna Reichert.
Repeat after me. I do solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do solemnly swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Okay, for the record, I'm submitting this as my final report. I'm sorry, I had it on the wrong case.
I was gonna say that's-
Continued that one.
Right.
Let's see. Let me see how to get out of here.
Escape.
Control, Alt, Delete.
Halt and catch fire, isn't it? That's all that. similar.
Why does that mouse show up on the screen?
Oh,
Are these?
That's because they have it set up as a icon.
I think we need a practice session.
Was Tom supposed to sign
I
it?
apologize, these are
Yeah,
iPads we're using.
yeah, he said he'd come back
We're not
and
Apple
sign.
fans.
We have a dry run around 4 o'clock.
Yeah. He will come by tomorrow and sign those.
Sorry.
Touch the top part of the screen, and then maybe that'll go away. Lonnie to the rescue, okay. No?
I gotta get out of this one and into my other case. This is, first one was confused.
Hmm?
Okay, right, exactly. This is yes.
Angel Lane.
Let me see that.
The lady that was on the
It's in
board.
here, it's in her stuff.
She quit.
Sheet that we
Yeah.
have.
We were not-
That was
Oh,
the
out for
picture.
storage,
Yeah.
yeah, sure.
Huh?
hold on.
She wanted to start from $300,000.
That's my copy, so you can have it. if you want.
She got mad and quit. What would Miss
Charlotte, that's Charlotte.
Charlotte, okay.
She's
I'm gonna move
a
down
big
one
deal
so.
with us. I think the party's got time for this stuff.
Yeah, I understand.
Well, Angel Street is 9 minutes from here, maybe we'll just go over and look
I
at
don't
it.
know what Mr. Roberts would have voted on this last motion.
Huh?
He's not gonna tell us. Mr. Roberts, he ain't gonna tell us how he would have voted on that last. Send him to the chair. Oh. What we're gonna do is lawyers are.
Do we have a respondent in this case?
Evidently not.
Could you tell us what the documentation looks like?
Actually,
Okay.
Could you tell us what the
Just
problem
goes
is?
in that last
yeah,
case.
because I'm gonna start.
I submitted, all the pictures and,
There are photographs in the final report. If you would like to see them as the exhibits, we can present them to each of you. I apologize. for this.
That's okay. Let's just move forward. See
Yeah,
what we do.
we'd like to.
Tell us a story, Ann.
Just
Yeah, what happened?
okay.
in your own words.
On August the 9th of 2016, Officer Reichert was conducting a proactive enforcement of the Highway 98 scenic corridor, which is located in the unincorporated area of Walton County. I observed a new sign in the process of being painted on the east side of a commercial building that is located at 5478 US 98, Santa Rosa Beach, Florida. And that's going to be my picture where I showed it to you.
What's it in front of?
I'm sorry, what?
What's the sign in front of what building?
It's the Apex Disaster Specialists.
Okay.
It's, on the north side of 98,
Okay.
on the west side of, John John's Mechanics.
Is that the one that's Regal Stevens is building?
It's being,
Mm-mm.
a lot of
The
construction.
other
going on.
side of John John.
So, oh, it's the white building. There it is. I know that building. Okay, great. We know what it is.
Yes,
All right.
that is it. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Renee.
Okay, and then further investigation revealed that the sign was in violation of
That's the
section
sign on the sign.
11.04.03 for sign permits. On August 11th, 2 days after the initial inspection, I conducted a site inspection and observed additional violation of section 1303.04.02J, a delivery vehicle bearing the company sign logo parked in front of the business on scenic corridor. Officer Riker gave a verbal notification to the business owner to cease the painting activity of the sign and to remove the delivery truck. And also they were to contact Walton County Planning Department to obtain a sign permit for for the sign that's being painted. The delivery truck was removed immediately while I was on site. Officer Reichert maintained regular contact with the Scenic Corridor Specialist Tim Brown regarding the status of the sign application, as the business owner was working to obtain the proper permits. On December the 12th, Anna Reichert, conducted a re-inspection which revealed no changes in the unpermitted sign. I also conducted inspections on January the 6th, and on February the 14th, I conducted a re-inspection, shows the illegal sign remained in place. I contacted Scenic Corridor Specialist Tim Brown, who stated the sign does not meet the requirements for a scenic corridor. Contact with the business owner, Jeremy Neal, who stated he is working with a sign company to comply within 30 days. So I granted a verbal extension to the business owner to obtain sign permits. On May the 16th of 2017, no contact had been received from the business owner, either by code enforcement or the planning department regarding the status of the sign permit. So a notice of violation was sent certified mail to the property owner listed on the Walton County Property Appraisers database. Certified mail receipt was signed on May the 22nd. On June the 30th, Officer Riker conducted a re-inspection revealing the unapproved building sign remained, confirmation from the planning department that no sign application had been submitted. A notice of hearing was sent certified mail to the property owner listed on the Walton County Property Appraisers database. Certified mail receipt signed July 10th, 2017. On July 11th, Officer Reichert, received a phone call from Jeremy Neal, the owner, who stated the illegal sign would be painted over by July 14th, 2017. As of this morning, 7:30, July 19th, 2017, a re-inspection conducted by Code Enforcement Manager Bill Williams. The sign remained in place, and as of 4:30 this afternoon, no sign permits had been submitted or approved. Conclusions of law. This is a lawfully constituted code enforcement proceeding convened pursuant to Chapter 12 of the Florida statutes and Chapter 12 of the Walton County Land Development Code. The Code Board has jurisdiction over the subject matter and the respondent. Notice of this proceeding has been duly provided to the respondent as required by County Code. The respondents, Dana L. Dixon and Belinda Dixon, by reason of the foregoing facts, are in violation of County Code 11.04.03. Respondents are subject to the enforcement jurisdiction of the Code Board. My recommendations for enforcement and penalties. It is my recommendation that the Code Board determine that 1, the address 5478 US 98 West is located within the unincorporated area of Walton County and is subject to Chapter 11 of the Walton County Land Development Code. 2, that proper notice of hearing was given to the respondents. 3, that a violation of the Walton County Land Development Code Section 11.04.03 does exist on this property. 4, the respondents are to correct the violation within 7 days of the date of this order. The respondents are further ordered to contact the Walton County Code Enforcement Department to arrange for reinspection of the subject property to verify compliance with this order. And 5, that if the respondent fails to comply with the above actions or fails to bring this property into compliance with applicable codes, ordinances, and regulations according to this order, the board impose a $450 administrative fine and a fine of $250 a day until the property is brought into compliance.
Okay, that it? All right. Before I ask for any questions for Officer Reichert, just let me clarify. Okay, so in summary, the violations that you have just outlined there are that there is no sign permit, no valid sign permit for the sign, and the sign that is there is a prohibited sign. I mean, it would not be permittable anyway. Okay. And Has the, I'm understanding too, that the implication is the respondent, who's not here tonight, obviously, has acknowledged that they are in violation through this, through the enforcement process.
They've never acknowledged that they are in violation. He did call and say he would paint over it by this past weekend, which
Okay.
was not.
But no explicit acknowledgement that they, all right. Anyone else questions?
I'll make a motion that we take the recommendation of the board,
Second motion.
Recommendation of who?
recommendation of the staff.
Okay, so we're doing this in, let's see, I forgot already. We do this in, you make a motion that we find them in violation and take the recommendations for enforcement action that were just outlined by Officer Wright.
Better statement than I did.
Okay. I got a motion and a second. Call question, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that one was a lot easier.
Hey, I'm sorry for the mix-up, but basically it was a picture of it's in there.
Oh, yeah, and I did mean
Well
to
done.
ask. Is there anything that you see in there that we should have?
I noticed
Yeah,
the word
this was
proactive, which is just a general question not pertaining to this case. But if we started doing that, proactive,
We have 2 areas, actually 3 of the county that we do proactive approach, which is the scenic corridors, Highway 98, Highway 30A, and scenic Gulf Drive.
okay.
Now, each of those 3 have different degrees of strict specifications of different.
Banners and things like that. Okay.
All right, he's got the last one.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right, thank you. All right, on to our final case on the agenda. Excuse me, number 7 is case 16-1983 regarding, I'm sorry, that's the one we just heard, excuse me. 15-395 regarding 352 Hope Road in Santa Rosa Beach. Violation, again, we're to the outdoor storage issue. This time, apparently, specifically paragraph B versus paragraph C that we were contemplating
We need
before.
to see if there's anyone here that's gonna be testifying that hasn't been sworn.
Okay. Is there anyone present that will be testifying in this matter that has not been sworn in? Is there anyone other than county personnel that have not been?
I haven't been sworn in, and I was original officer on the case, but I don't know if I need to say anything, because officer.
You want to do it anyway or not?
No, if he
Okay.
needs to testify, then we'll.
And I assume we have no respondent, no one representing the respondent here either. Okay. I knew that, but just had to ask. Okay, go.
Good evening, Officer Bill
Proceed.
Williams, Code Enforcement
All right, Bill.
Manager. This case was put on the agenda as a previous case that had been visited and ruled on by the board several months ago. In conversation with the county attorney, I was under the impression that we needed to present this case before the board to institute or start the lien on the property, as it has not been cleaned up and remains in non-compliance. However, the attorney corrected me on my legal standing on this matter, and so therefore there's no need to present this case to the board at this time. So, as an update though, on previous cases, what we're trying to do is track cases from the time the board makes a ruling, so that we can avoid situations where we have long-running cases, fees and fines, which there's no tracking of through code enforcement. So we're trying to take that initiative to prevent some of these cases that are brought back 10 years or 15 years from now with astronomical fines. We're looking at means to correct that.
Gotcha.
And this was one of those cases that we were going to look at to say, we have a system in place, so.
You mean rather than coming and us slashing the fines as we've been doing?
Correct, yes, we're trying to avoid getting to that point.
Okay.
With a tracking system. Once you, as the board, make a ruling, we will follow up on those cases regularly to see if there is compliance. And we've also been talking with the county attorney about ways we can possibly cap fines or.
Sounds like a good idea to me.
Maybe a situation where we would bring some of these old cases back to you guys to see if you would like to toll the fines. And this may very well be one of those cases.
So, am I understanding then, all right, this one, he was already found in violation and we imposed the penalty, and now we have liened the property, or I
Yes.
guess we did that
Yes.
already, okay.
Yes.
Okay, and how long ago was this?
The,
Original,
affidavit of non-compliance was approximately 6 months ago that we filed with the clerk of courts, which stated that the lien was in effect.
when did we make the board hear the case about, I mean, approximately, I just,
It was approximately 8 to 9 months ago.
okay.
All right.
So we're done? I mean, so is that,
Yeah.
no action needed by the board, nothing to hear, nothing else?
We adjourn.
We got a motion to adjourn? We're adjourned.
Thank you, friends.
I guess, I don't know if
I'll
that's
have
the
one
second.
leave.
How come we never vote for this, Jeremy? Just do it.
I don't think,
Everybody wants to go.
what's the